Experience tranquility. Pass into the iris.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Iris Podcast. I'm your host, Bowsy. Joining me here today, we have Thor and we have Nagisa. How are you doing this fine evening?
Pretty good.
Still alive. Every day above ground is a good one.
Definitely. It is a very good day to be above ground. We're going to get started here with our usual show, but first thing, it's the start of Season 9. Everything is new teams, new divisions, new places to explore as we enter into the 9th season here of Tranquility Gaming. And we start off with the obvious, the preseason. The preseason just wrapped up this last week. Congratulations to the Nostalgia Org for winning all 3 preseason matches. I was involved in the production of all 3 of those matches, so Capital, I expect my Venmo in the mail sometime soon. But regardless, really good matches overall. We're going to start off with the Harmony NA. Thor, give me your reactions to the Harmony North America preseason finals flashbacks, beating Strix 4-1.
Yeah, so I watched this live, and I was actually pretty impressed with how Strix kind of kept up with flashbacks. I mean, they took the first map off of them, but again, it's control, and even the San Francisco Shock lose control a lot of the time. So later on in the match, I mean, you started to see a lot of different compositions, and everybody kept on trying to counter comp everybody. It was really, really entertaining to see, but it just kind of seemed that flashbacks had a better handle on how to counter everything that Strix was throwing at them, and ended up coming out on top at the end. But 5 really, really close maps. You can't really ask for anything more than that.
Yeah, definitely. Flashbacks and Strix, a really good show. I highly recommend watching that if you want to. It was a really good show, and honestly, it shows that Flashbacks still may be the undefeated Titans that we know they are, but they are not immune to close series. They had close series throughout the entire preseason, and the preseason finals were no exception. Let's move on to Discord Tier NA, Reminiscence being able to take the 4-1 victory over MI7. Nagisa, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a little unsurprising for most people that Rem ended up winning the preseason with relative ease. 4-1. So they're definitely a strong team, as they have been for many seasons, and full org sweep. So I think that there were some teams that put up a fairly good fight against them, but overall they kind of just swept it, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. Reminiscence doing a really good job in the preseason. MI7 also showing a lot of strength. So it'll be interesting to see how these two teams face off in the regular season, especially considering that they're in the same pool to start out. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll get into more of that later. Meanwhile, we have to wrap it up here, we have the Transcendence tier, where Amnesia took the only sweep we saw in the preseason finals, a 4-0 sweep over NYAA, which still had some close moments. I'm pretty sure Yeti will be haunted by that Hanamura map for years to come, or at least until Overwatch 2 comes out later this year. So it definitely was an interesting match, and really it shows that, the preseason still could be a decider, but at the same time, the Transcendence preseason may not be an accurate representation of how well the season will go. Only 5 of the 18 teams in our Transcendence tier participated in the preseason for the Transcendence tier, and one of those teams dropped out. So I think it's safe to say that, really, the Transcendence tier could be all up in the air. For all we know, Amnesia could be the best team, but they could also be mid-tier, considering they won the preseason. So it's really going to be interesting, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Congratulations again, Amnesia, Reminiscence, and Flashbacks, the Nostalgia Org, for sweeping all of the preseason finals this season. Now, before we head on to our next section, which is going to be the broaden of the basic theme of the Iris podcast this week, we have some special videos to show off. Of course, thanks to our lovely editing team over here at Tranquility Gaming, we have produced 3 videos showcasing montages, showcasing highlights from the entirety of the preseason finals. And we're going to start off with the Harmony preseason video. This one was edited by Caden. Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to Tranquility Season 9 preseason coverage. With 1 week before the season starts, it's time for us to crown our preseason champions, starting in the North American Harmony tier, where the 2-time champions in the Flashbacks face off against the underdogs in Strix. Who will be the first to claim the title of Season 9 preseason champion? There's only one way to find out. Be careful, because Azino has that EMP, but already Doha uses this. There's 11 hacked people on the field right now. Get out of here.
underestimate the engineers.
During halftime, you have to remind me to go to thesaurus.com and look up some kind of synonym to Scrappy, because that is seriously the only word that I have to describe these fights.
Hammer down!
Ninja's in your backline now. Penny gets full support with the Deadeye.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Kiddo is super hungry today.
Like shooting fish in a barrel.
Clearing the board.
This is the season of Thuggington here.
Piece of cake.
Someone needs to check this Kiddo guy's account. We don't know who he is, and no, I'm just absolutely kidding. Kiddo's been a staple of Overwatch Tranquility for a very long time, and he's still proving that he is definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Kiddo gets the 4K Diva Bomb.
No wasted.
Flashbacks cleaning up the point that they need, and Flashbacks will continue their undefeated streak of preseason championships.
Experience tranquility.
Thank you very much, Caden. Welcome back, everybody, to the Iris Podcast. Again, thank you, Caden, for making that video with some very handsome dialogue from a noticeable caster. That's right, I'm talking about Delphi. Moving on now, we're going to head over to our main section here of the Iris Podcast this week, which is preseason pontifications. The season starts tomorrow. So everything really going to be questioned about, and it's going to be interesting to see how these teams work out. So we're going to be, and so I gave these analysts some questions that they have to answer for you, and they have to answer them to determine how well these teams are going to be doing, how well they're going to be doing, what their favorite team is to watch this season, all that sort of stuff we'll be answering here on the podcast. And we're going to start off in the group favorite section, which is I gave them the groups, and they have to choose who is the favorite to win the group. They'll have about 45 seconds to answer that, so they can get on to their way and give us a reason why these teams are going to win. We'll start off with you, Thor, in the Harmony North America tier. Of the teams that are in Orem A, which are, give me a second here, of the teams in Harmony Orem A, which are Big Bang Buccaneers, Chinchillas, X Kusanagi, Geometric, Jersey Boys, and Omnic Boogaloo, who do you think is winning the group?
So I almost went with Geometric here, but when I looked at Geometric's roster, I thought hopefully I'm not thinking of another team, but I think they had like 8 or 9 people on their roster. So whenever you see a stacked roster like that, it's very, very difficult to kind of determine how it's going to turn out, because you don't know if they're stacked on the roster because they don't know if they can get people to show up consistently, or if they're going to have like rotation issues. So I went with the tried and true Jersey Boys on this one. Jersey Boys always tend to show up. They've got Godzilla, Bento, and Titan kind of coming back, leading the way. So really, I mean, I think this isn't really a hot take here. I think Jersey Boys kind of take this.
Jersey Boys have always been the Jersey Boys have always been a consistent throughout all of Tranquility, especially with their roster. If I had $1 for every time Jersey Boys made a roster move, I'd still be looking for my first dollar. So they definitely have that synergy. They definitely have shown to be strong every single season. So it'll be interesting to see how Jersey Boys does this season. Nagi, we're going to move over to you as we head over to RMB. Of these 6 teams in Harmony North America RMB, those being Chicago Mafia, the Fire-Breathing Rubber Duckies, the Fighting Potatoes, the Galactic Penguins, Milivot Gaming, and Strix. Who is the favorite to win the group?
I think it was a little bit difficult for me, but I went with Strix because I think that out of all of those teams, I think that they're definitely one of the strongest and has one of the best chances of winning that group. they have a really strong lineup that people are very, familiar with. Mixer, Octobot, Doha, Yojimbo, people like that. And I think that, well, I guess I can't say for Overwatch 2 yet. It's not going to be happening yet. But I do think that Strix, out of all of them, it definitely is just the strongest.
Yeah, definitely. Strix having a lot of those recurring pieces. It's worth noting as well that we ended up running a poll here in the Tranquility Gaming Discord server so we could see what everybody think. Galactic Penguins were chosen by the community. However, of all the Harmony divisions, it was the closest margin between first and second. Galactic Penguins has 21 votes currently. Strix has 11. So that is the closest margin between first and second place in terms of who people think is going to win the group. So it definitely is going to be a toss-up. I think those two might be the favorites here, but Strix, showing that they can make the preseason finals and take a map off the flashbacks, might be more up there. Thor, heading over to the Indigo side now of the 6 teams in Harmony Indigo A. That being 07 Titanium, Chrysalis, Clairvoyance, Ragnarok Freya, Insidious, and Koala Kings. Who is the favorite to win the group?
So I hate to be predictable here. I think Koala Kings is the easiest choice. And this isn't to throw shade at any of the newer teams, but unless you're coming off of simple rebranding, and your players have a lot of that name recognition, we just haven't seen anything from you guys yet. So try not to take this personally. Koala Kings have a very, very strong pedigree, so that's why I'm picking them here. But there's plenty of time for everybody to prove me wrong.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how these teams can prove you wrong, definitely including your own team, Ragnarok Freya, is in that group. But yeah, Koala Kings, the Season 6 champions, trying to bring back another title for the Marsupial Org. It'll be interesting to see how well they do in Indigo A. Nagisa, to wrap up Harmony, we're going to be getting over to Indigo B. Of the 6 teams in Indigo B, that being 3.5, Ace High, Fahrenheit 972, Flashbacks, Narwhal Connects, and Obfuscation, who is the favorite to win the group?
Well, I think it's an obvious favorite. Most people will agree with. I think it's definitely Flashbacks. They showed a lot of strength in preseason, as they have in previous seasons. And in that group specifically, I'm pretty sure they're going to win fairly convincingly. Although there are a few new teams, so we could be proven wrong with that because we don't know what they're like yet. But I'm still sticking with Flashbacks for now.
Yeah, definitely. Flashbacks, I mean, there is no denying that they would be the favorite in this group right now, but it's going to be interesting to see if any of these teams could make some upsets. Some of them reoccurring teams, but some of them also have a lot of roster changes, so it'll be interesting to see how Indigo B is able to shape out. Let's go across the pond here for a bit. We're heading over to the EU side for our Harmony tier. We only have one group because it is a round-robin tournament. Only 8 teams in Harmony EU, those 8 teams being Acer, Brig Divers, Celsius 522, Dino Nuggies, EG Dragon Eel, Hive Mind, Hope Guardians, and the Skyward Wildcats. Thor, of these 8, who's the favorite to win the group?
So EU teams are always going to be tough, not only because it's the beginning of season, but obviously they're several time zones away. And their inaugural season in Tranquility was last season. So a lot of these teams still kind of flexing their muscles, gaining that notoriety within the server. But I went with Dino Nuggies here, just because I know Potato is coaching them. So I'm not sure if they have a lot of people playing on ping though, or if they're actually all EU based. So it's going to be interesting to see how this tier kind of shakes out. I think the only returning team from last season is Acer. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. But so it's, right now it's looking wide open.
Acer is the only returning team, so it's going to be interesting. A lot of shakeup here in the Harmony EU side. Nagisa, I'm going to ask you the same question. Who do you think in Harmony EU is going to win the group?
So, I saw that Thor already said Dino Nuggies. That's kind of the one that I know the most, I'd say, because there's a lot of people from last season. But I picked someone else. I picked EG Dragneel. I don't have a ton of basis for this because there's a lot of new teams in this tier. So I really like the name, fairy tale reference, I think. But I don't know. I'm rooting for them. I think it's just going to be an interesting tier regardless, just because of how many new teams there are. And I don't know. It'll just be fun to watch and see who can rise to the top this season.
EU definitely is an interesting and fun tier to watch. Remember last season, the two favorites to win the championship both did not make the championship round. So anything can happen in EU, and it's going to be interesting to see how Harmony EU shapes up this year. Let's come back to America real quick. We're going to head over to Discord North America. Thor, we're going to start off with you. Of the 6 teams in Discord North America RMA, those being Chicago Deep Dish, Cosmic Castaways, Galactic Gibbons, Hammerhead, Ragnarok Loki, and Monarch. Who is the favorite to win the group?
So a lot of people might interpret this as a hot take for several reasons, because Galactic Gibbons is strong, Cosmic Castaways is last season's champions, and the team that I manage, they're all in this.
And the team you play for. Yeah.
They're all, yeah. So, but I actually went with Chicago Deep this year, just because I know that they recently won the most recent UGC season. Now, I know that this is a slightly revamped roster for them to be able to fit within SR requirements of Tranquility, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. But they were super, super strong in UGC, and they have a really, really strong, coaching foundation, really strong org. So I went with a little bit of a hot take, and I picked Chicago Deep this year.
Yeah, Chicago Deep Dish definitely looking like a strong roster. I'd say the only, a not strong part is Dab Masters managing that team. But regardless, they definitely do look like a very interesting team heading into Discord this season. Nagi, let's head over to RMB. Of the 6 teams that are in Discord North America RMB, those being Adelaide Eclipse, MI7, Poseidon, Reminiscence, Skyla, and Thunder Duckies. Who's the favorite to win the group?
Well, I think it's one of those obvious ones again, where I think Rem is probably, a favorite to win in this group. I think they're most definitely the strongest. But there is four new teams in this group.
Yes,
so
4.
yeah, it's again with that new talent. We don't know who's gonna sweep in and maybe just, be better. I mean, I think that is going to be a difficult task for anybody, especially with Rem, but we just don't know yet. So, we'll see. But as it stands, definitely Rem.
Discord RMB, I'm pretty sure, has the most new teams of any division, excluding the EU divisions, in Tranquility this season. So Discord RMB definitely could be a shakeup on how well these teams are and which team's going to be the favorite to win that group. Moving on to Thor once again, we're heading over to the Indigo side of things. Of the 6 teams that are in Discord North America, Indigo A, those being Joey Esports, Nemesis, Redacted, SEAL Team Spuds, Space Created, and Vampiries. Who is the favorite to win the group?
So I went with Joey here, which seems like an obvious choice, but Joey's kind of a shell of their former selves, and definitely are vulnerable in this particular group, especially to teams like Redacted, who I believe made it to the Final 4 last season. SEAL Team Spuds, potentially Space Created, and then you got a couple of new teams in there. But, I mean, Joey, I don't know how hard Cryptic is throwing his games to the point where his registered SR is, he's like 28 SR from Plat. I'm not sure what's going on there, but with Cryptic and Knocked on this team always has a chance. And they have Potato, and he's cute, and everybody loves him, so you got to root for him.
And definitely Cryptic J-Force, last season's Hall of Fame inductee. Definitely staying with Joey Esports. This chat even saying Joey Esports blows. Yet they are second in the Indigo A community poll, only being beaten by the SEAL Team Spuds. So you say that you hate them and that they blow, but despite that, they still are being highly rated than most of the teams in this division. Nagi, let's wrap up Discord tier. Heading over to Discord tier, Indigo B, of the 6 teams in this group, that being Adrenalines, Avalon, Doodles, Fahrenheit 214, Hades, and Reckless Upsilon. Who's the favorite to win the group?
So I don't know for the community who is the favorite, but I went with Doodles because I think that they're like a really random team. Like their matches have always been like hit or miss, but I think that's kind of fun, I think it makes like fun matches, and I think people like watching odd comps and off meta because we don't get to see that very often. So personally, I think that Doodles is a top favorite there, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I've said it before. The best way to predict the Doodles match is roll one of these. Literally just roll a dice. That is literally how you predict. It's a D. I have a D6, but still, the point stands strong. The best way to predict the Doodles match is to roll a dice. Doodles is a team that you literally cannot predict. They are the hardest team to predict in Tranquility, and they can take it all the way, or they can be a sitting duck in the water. The community did vote Adrenalines here, but I mean, Adrenalines did win a playoff game, but still, when Doodles is in your group, run. Speaking of running, we're going to run across back the Atlantic and head over to Discord EU. Again, 8 teams in this in a round-robin style. The 8 teams being Berserk, Cam, Deathwatch, Dragon's Aura, Feeders United, Feeders Divided, Mythical Kitsune, and Paid to Win. Thor, of these 8, who's winning the group?
So it looks like we've got 2 returning teams from last season. I think Feeders
Correct.
United and Pay to Win. I might be going out on a limb here, but is there some relation between the Feeders United and the Feeders Divided?
I believe they are the same org.
So interesting, but I had to go with Feeders United here. Again, an obvious choice, and until somebody has an opportunity to prove me otherwise, I'd kind of be an idiot to go with anybody else.
Nagi, how about you?
Again, Feeders United is kind of the only team that I know much about. I remember Paid to Win, but I think I went with somebody else yet again. I went with Mythical Kitsune. I'm not super familiar with them, but I love their name. I love their logo. And based on last season's predicting Tranquility, if I vote by name and logo, I'm pretty good at it. So I'm going with Mythical Kitsune.
That definitely
the true criteria to use when determining power level of teams is their logo and their name.
There you go. That's how people usually predicted in the beginning of the season. So I agree with you there. Mythical Kitsune, definitely a great name and a great logo. I think they definitely could be high up judging on this. We'll have to see how they do in the actual season, though. Let's move back over here to the Americas and wipe out our Transcendence tier. 18 teams, 3 divisions. Thor, we're starting with you in Transcendence Tier Aurum Division. Of these 6 teams in this, being 413 Catalysts, Billings Boomers, Death Cards, Guangzhou Gangsters, NYAA, and Sydney Sunsets, who's winning the group?
So I went with Guangzhou here, which might be a little bit of a surprise to some people because they went out so early in the preseason tournament for Trans Tier. But again, there were only 4 teams. They're 4 really good teams, so I don't really think you can hold that against them. Any team with Cam on it, give them time. I mean, they're going to start rolling teams. But again, this is a strong division. I mean, you got Guangzhou Gangsters, Death Cards, and Billings Boomers all going to be vying for that top spot. So keep your eyes peeled.
Definitely Guangzhou Gangsters rebranding from Epizeuxis because they wanted their name to actually be pronounced correctly this season. So they're looking like a very strong team this season, definitely.
Because people are known for pronouncing Guangzhou correctly.
It is easier to pronounce than Epizeuxis, I swear to God. If I had $1 for every time someone mispronounced Epizeuxis, I'd be able to buy a new shirt from shop.spreadshirt.com/OW Tranquility. There's your ad for the day. Go buy shirts over there. Nagi-san, we're moving over to the new division here in Transcendence, Azure. For the first time, we have Azure as a division. Of the 6 teams in Transcendence North America, Azure, those being classified, Krabby Crabbers, Decapitators, Culture, the Palm Beach Poggers, and Reckless Sigma. Who is the favorite to win the group?
So when I was going over this, I kind of thought that it was like a personal favorite. I think that for a fan favorite, I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be Decaps. But what I picked was, I guess I wrote Palm Peach Poggers on my notes, but yeah, Palm Beach Poggers. They're back. I love them. I think it's a strong team lineup. I'm really excited to see how they fare in Trans Tier this season. I don't think they've been in Trans Tier before.
Nope.
So I think it's going to be really interesting, and I'm excited to see what they do. So
hottest take of the podcast right there.
By far, that is the hottest take.
You're moving up from Harmony Tier to Transcendence Tier?
I'm excited to see that, though.
I am too. Yeah, I am too. Palm Beach Poggers back in Season 7 was really good. This is a combination of both Palm Beach and Miami Yikes, who are part of the same org, and they're back in Tranquility here, and it's going to be interesting to see how well they fare in a Transcendence Tier. Didn't do too hot in the preseason, but you know what? The preseason isn't everything. You could still be mid-tier. So we'll have to see how well they do in this season.
And there's also Overwatch 2. You never know.
There is Overwatch 2 as well, so we have to be careful about that. Once the midseason comes around, anything can happen. Yeti says in the chat, it was a take so hot, he died of heat exhaustion. Remember to stay hydrated, kids. Thor, we're going to wrap it up with you in the Transcendence Tier Indigo Pool. Of these 6 teams in Indigo Pool, those being Amnesia, Arctic Foxes, Devil Dukes, Frost Fisher, the Lijiang Legion, and Oath. Who's your favorite to win the group? Or who is the favorite?
So this one was actually tougher. It was definitely between Amnesia and Devil Dukes. Devil Dukes just perennially a strong team coming from Marsupial Org. But with Amnesia and their performance throughout the course of the preseason tournament, again, it was only 4 teams, really small sample size here. But I got to root for the team that has the LCS on it. Come on. So, but it's definitely good between Amnesia, Devil Dukes, and watch out for Oath, moving up from Discord tier last season. Really came on strong towards the end of the season. Really interested to see how well they do moving up to Transcendence tier.
Oh, definitely a well-known candidate for being one of the biggest underdog stories of last season in Discord tier. Could definitely make an impact. They have shown some performance over in the North American Community Championship, albeit they are 0-2, but still, they have some very good individual performance. They have some good individual performance. You want to keep your eye out on Oath, because they can sweep you when you least expect it. And that is all we have of the group favorites. Before we move on to our next section, we have another weekly video to show you. Our Trans Tier preseason montage. This one was edited by Delphi. Thank you very much, Delphi.
Evening, Overwatch fans. Welcome to Tranquility Gaming's Transcendence Tier preseason finals here in Season 9. Going to Busan between Amnesia and NYAA. But NYAA is getting set up on the point, and we see that beam now at full spin up. So if NYAA is able to sustain, Tayo is going to be able to deal enough damage to secure this here. The damage is massive onto Akua as Tayo continues to be an absolute menace on the Symmetra. See the defense now. We see them again pressing away right when that teleporter goes out. Hack trying to get in now from Gimmick, playing on the Sombra now instead of the Pharah. So a different look now from NYAA on this Sombra Tracer now. So a very different look, a lot less damage potential for sure. We see Blizzard now on the point, going to take Vamp down. The kills right now are just all in favor of Amnesia as they answer back. We go to Hybrid right now, and the map choice, it appears, is going to be Hollywood for NYAA.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A. Looking for me? I'm out of here.
And that is going to be all here for NYAA. And Amnesia gonna put this one to bed here early. A 4-match sweep. And they take the Transcendence Tier preseason championship in Season 9.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you again, Delphi, for that amazing Transcendence tier montage. We're going to head into now our lightning round, where questions are quick and some of them are a little bit more difficult than other. We'll start out in the Harmony tier, North America, with the tier favorites. Who you think is going to be winning the tier overall? Thor, we'll start with you. Who's winning the tier?
Flashbacks, period. Strongest tank line, really good support line. I don't think it's really going to be all that close, to be completely honest with you.
Definitely Thor. Or no, sorry, not Thor. Nagisa.
Again?
Sorry, Thor.
Twice.
I'm tired. Nagisa.
Yes. Only a little bias. I'm going with Galactic Penguins. I mean, I think if we're talking about, everybody else, flashbacks, but like, I don't know. I'm going with Galactic Penguins. We'll see.
Definitely Galactic Penguins showing some strength. Obviously, the runner-ups last season could make an impact this season. How about this? Our dark horse team, a team that could be a dark horse this season. Thor, we'll start with you.
I picked Geometric. As I alluded to earlier, I need to see how well they manage this 9-man roster or 9-player roster. With Nerfed at the helm, I have faith, but I need to see how that plays out first, because I've seen other 9, 10-player rosters in the past eat themselves alive. So,
Nagisa, what about you?
I went with Fahrenheit 972. Got a pretty good team lineup. I could see them making waves this season.
Definitely.
We'll see.
Yeah, Fahrenheit having a lot of strong pieces, including adding Bubble Wyatt from Chrysalis last season onto DPS. So it's going to be interesting to see how well they do. New team to watch. Any new teams that are coming into Harmony tier this season that you think you're going to be keeping a close eye on? Thor, we'll start with you.
So I'm interested to see how Insidious does. Insidious, they have a really high average SR, but they're really top heavy in SR when it comes to their support line, which is almost always a recipe for disaster. You see most of the successful teams at this particular level, they are top heavy on their DPS or their tank line. So we'll see how that works out for them.
Insidious, definitely an interesting team. Not the same Insidious from last season, unfortunately. We do not have Stinky back in the tournament here this season. Nagisa, what about you?
I went with Omnic Boogaloo. I just like their name. That's kind of it. I just like their name.
Honestly, no one will agree with you. No one will disagree with you. No one will disagree.
No one's gonna agree with me. No.
Only get top tier analysis here on the Iris podcast.
No one would disagree with you. Omnic Boogaloo is probably one of the best names in Harmony tier this season. It'll be interesting to see how well they do in Harmony tier. How about an early MVP favorite before the season even begins? Thor, how about you?
You know me, I'm a tank simp, so I actually went with Pasty for the flashbacks, even though there were definitely times during the preseason finals where OptiBot was definitely giving them a run for their money. So, but early favorite, always got to give some love to the main tanks.
Nagi, how about you?
I went with Kiddo from Flashbacks. He's just such a good player. I've played with him before. It's just a nutty player, so definitely a favorite for me.
Tanks from Flashbacks, both getting a lot of attention. Definitely warranted, though. Both of them really good in the preseason. Now, here's probably one of the hardest questions to ask. Your favorite logo. Thor, first, we'll start with you.
Fire-breathing rubber duckies. It's a rubber ducky breathing fire. Need I say more?
Nagi, how about you?
I assume this was like a personal favorite logo, so I went with Chrysalis. I've always liked the butterfly, like colors and everything. I think it's pretty. Yeah, it's my favorite.
Crystal is definitely a really good logo. I'm going to step in here and say my favorite logo. It's a team that recently just joined, Chinchilla. Chinchilla, such a cute logo. I mean, if that wasn't a marsupial team, I wouldn't say Chinchilla, but it's not. So Chinchilla, definitely one of the best logos in Harmony Tier this season. We'll wrap up the Harmony Tier North America here with your favorite team to watch in general. What team would you just want to click right on a feature for? Thor, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with Jersey Boys again here. Again, I'm a big Godzilla simp, so anytime I can tune in and watch some good tank play, that's what I'm there for.
Nagi, what about you?
Big Bang Buccaneers. I think they're a very fun team to watch. They're one of the few teams that I've actually tuned in multiple times to see, so yeah.
Yeah, the Big Bang Buccaneers definitely a really, really fun team to watch. A lot of changes. Some changes to that roster this season that will make it very interesting. Let's move across the pond back to Harmony Tier EU. Of course, we already discovered we already talked about who we think our tier favorite is going to be, but now let's talk about who we think is going to be the dark horse. Thor, we'll start with you.
I went with C522. I believe this is an offshoot of the Fahrenheit org. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm looking at the roster here, and they've got Thoriumea, they got Rocco, so I'm definitely seeing some potential here.
Some American players heading over to the EU to go play over there. It'll be interesting.
They got to worry about ping.
They got to worry about ping, but it'll be interesting to see how well they do. Nagi, how about you?
There's a lot of new teams. It's pretty early to say, but I went with Brig Divers. I think with a name like that, they could be a dark horse. We'll have to see. But yeah, Brig Divers.
Yeah, Brig Divers. A hellish thing to do if you are playing against Brigida 1.0.
Mm-hmm.
How about an early MVP favorite before the season starts? Thor, your thoughts?
So I went with DPS here, and after seeing them a couple times during some featured matches last season, I actually went with Jammy on Aesir. Aside from the fact that they're a cracked out DPS, I've got to give a shout out to, the team that references the Nordic Pantheon. So,
Nagisa, what about you?
I went with Skyflower from Dino Nuggies. I think they're a very good player. They were last season, and I think that they'll continue to be. So.
Definitely will be. Also, I just noticed in the chat, Yeti saying, last call for giveaway entries. If you want to get your giveaway entries in to win a free Tranquility Gaming t-shirt from any sort of logo you want from the Tranquility Gaming store, do it now. That's all I'm going to say moving forward. Now on to our final one of Harmony Tier U, which again is the hardest one. Favorite logo, Thor.
I went with Hope Guardians here. Just looks like a really clean logo. Red, white, and blue. Can't go wrong there.
Nagi, what about you?
I agree with Hope Guardians. I think it's nice.
So obviously Hope Guardians have a really good logo, so it's safe to say Nagisa will probably be predicting Hope Guardians a lot this season.
Probably so.
Hope Guardians, actually, it's funny, Hope Guardians were my dark horse pick because most of its roster, if I looked at it, most of the roster is deviated from A10 Esport last season. So it'll be very interesting to see how well Hope Guardians do with that sort of synergy and those old players. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's move back over to America, to Discord Tier NA, starting with the tier favorite. Thor, your thoughts?
Reminiscence, easy pick here. Really strong tank line, probably the strongest support line in all of Discord Tier. I don't think there's really any question. Capital at the helm with Speedy and Asdo coaching them. Really, really, really strong. Even though they abuse double shields, you got to pick them here.
Double shield abusers always are bad, but
definitely can't do that in Overwatch 2, though.
Can't do it in Overwatch 2. You only have one shield unless you have Brigida as the second shield.
That's what I'm saying.
Definitely in that case. Nagi, what about you?
So yeah, I thought this was like a personal choice again, but so I think fan favorite obviously is going to be Rem. I think that, the strongest, but I said SEAL Team Spuds because I think they're going to be a fun team to watch this season. It's always interesting to see how they adapt each season. I'm curious to see how well they do. I believe. We'll see.
SEAL Team Spuds in the offseason got massacred, I might say, maybe even fried. So they had to rebuild their entire roster, and they picked up some pretty good people. So it'll be interesting to see how well they do in this season. Let's move on to Dark Horse Team. Thor, starting with you.
So I went with personal experience here is my team got knocked out of the preseason tourney by this team, so I went with MI7. They have some of the cleanest brawl rotations I've ever seen from a Diamond team. Really interested to see how well they diversify their comp choices and how far they make it throughout the course of the season.
That's your preseason runner-ups, MI7, so we'll see how well they do. Nagi, what about you?
I went with Thunder Duckies. I like the name. And I think if they're anything like FBRD, they're going to be very interesting to watch this season.
Two returning players from Fire Breathing Rubber Duckies on Thunder Duckies this season, so it'll be interesting to see how well they do. New team to watch. Thor, we'll start with you.
So I alluded to this earlier. I'm going with Chicago Deep Dish again here. Really strong tank line with Smokey and Iconic. And recent UGC champions. Slightly revamped roster, so we'll have to see how they pair up with teams like Reminiscence and MI7.
Nagisa, what about you?
I went with Thunder Duckies again. Same reason as last time. I just think they're going to be really fun to watch. I always thought like FBRD was really fun to watch, so I think Thunder Duckies will also be.
Yeah, Thunder Duckies definitely will be interesting. My pick for best logo, by the way, because, you can't argue with Thunder Duckies. Love Ducks. Moving on to our next category. Early MVP favorite. Thor, we'll start with you.
So I don't know if anybody here watched the preseason finals for Discord tier, but Choice Who Won had an absolutely cracked out game. And they also trialed for our team way back, in June. Unfortunately, in hindsight, we didn't pick them up because unfortunately they were away for pretty much the entirety of July, so they weren't able to scrim with us. But they're going to do Reminiscence proud. Really, really, really strong off tank player.
Nagisa, what about you?
I went with Sticko from Galactic Gibbons. I know I'm gassing up my own team here a little bit, but Sticko is insane. Like, mechanically, comms-wise, leadership, nerfed made Sticko the captain. I just think he really has it all. I had to mention him, so.
Yeah, definitely. Sticko, really strong last season, was, from my knowledge, the best off-tank winner in Harmony North America, so definitely hoping to make an impact here in Discord tier with that expansion of the Galactic Org. Again, the hardest question of them all, favorite logo. Thor, we'll start with you.
So for any boomers who have ever seen the movie Spaceballs, I had to go with Chicago Deep Dish again here because their logo reminds me of Jabba the Hutt or Pizza the Hut.
Pizza the Hut, definitely an interesting character, and I can see where that inspiration may have come from. Nagisa, what about you?
I went with Cosmic Castaways. I like their logo. I love their logo. I've liked it for a while. I don't know. I love the theme. It's just really cool.
And finally, to wrap up Discord tier North America, your favorite team to watch, and I think there's obvious answers from both of you here. Considering what I heard for earlier and considering what teams are here, just Thor, you say it first.
There's a slight consensus here. So I went with Doodles. Anytime you can tune in and watch a team actually win maps on Winston and Roadhog, it's definitely entertaining. I'll give them that.
And Nagisa.
Yep, I agree with Thor. I said a little bit earlier, they have wacky comps. It's just so fun to watch things that are outside of the meta sometimes, so.
Doodles, I swear, is the team that should never get away with what they play, and they always do. We'll never figure out how, and we will never figure out when it's going to stop. But Doodles definitely hoping to make an impact here in the Discord tier. Let's fly back over the Atlantic and head over to the Discord tier EU, starting with our Dark Horse team. Thor, what's your favorite?
So Feeders United being the favorite here, but I'm interested to see how Deathwatch does. They have the second highest SR average in the tier. Don't recognize any of these players, unfortunately, because probably they're all EU players. But why not?
Why not, indeed. Deathwatch will be interesting to see how well they do. Nagisa, what about you?
I'm going to say again, I don't know a ton about these EU teams yet because it's so early on, because there's lots of brand new teams, but I went with Mythical Kitsune again. Are they a Dark Horse team? I don't know. It's so early to to know, who will be in general, but maybe I like them. So
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how well the EU tier develops, because we don't really know anything about Discord tier EU yet, so it'll be interesting to see how well that goes. How about your early MVP favorite, Thor?
So again, I'm going to give more love to the tanks here. I went with Taikatsu from Feeders United, returning from last season. Main tank, projected top tier team, pretty good bet.
Nagisa, what about you?
I went with How to Draw, the DPS on Feeders United. I think they're a solid player. They were solid last season, and I think they're a good choice.
How to Draw, definitely going to be interesting to see how well Feeders United do. And, of course, the hardest one by far, your favorite logo. Thor, we'll start with you.
So I went with Deathwatch here. I mean, it looks pretty badass. I mean, they got some like Reaper / Grim Reaper stuff going on. I don't know if this was one that was actually submitted by the team GM or if this is one that Cavalier drew up, but either way, mad props.
Nagisa, what about you?
I think this is unsurprising because I've already mentioned it a few times. Mythical Kitsune. It's just so cool. I just love the theme. It's like probably my favorite logo in all of Trank right now.
I sadly have to agree with you. Mythical Kitsune. I am a sucker for Japanese culture. I love Mythical Kitsune's name. I love their logo. I love everything about them. They might be my favorite team this season. It'll be interesting to see how well they do and if they live up to the hype. Transcendence tier now to finish it out. Starting off with the tier favorites. Thor, who's winning at the end?
This is probably one of the hardest teams to pick for the podcast, but I went with Guangzhou Gangsters here, just returning champions. Epizeuxis rebranding the Guangzhou Gangsters here with Cam leading the way. But you got a ton of teams vying for this spot. Death Cards, Decaps, Amnesia, Devil Dukes. It's going to be a really, really tough, really tight race at the top.
Definitely will be a tight race to the top. Speaking of that, Nagisa, your tier favorite.
I think fan favorite wise, it's probably going to be Amnesia or Guangzhou Gangsters or Decaps, but my personal favorite is going to be Death Cards. I think they have a nice team lineup. I'm definitely rooting for them. I know some people on that team, but I know that they're strong players, so that's my favorite.
Death Cards taking a lot of players from Decapitators last season and bringing them over. It'll be interesting to see how well they're able to sustain and if they're going to be able to bring it all the way. Dark Horse team, Thor, we'll start with you.
So I went with Decaps here. They got like an interesting amalgamation of a roster. You've got the Cry Smarties backline, and by the way, how's Cry not in Masters yet? I don't know that. But you've got Andy and Pyro. You got some like old guard from Godhand. So definitely looking forward to seeing them push to that top spot in Transcendence tier.
Definitely most of that championship Cosmic Castaways roster moved over to Decapitators, so we'll see how well they do there. Nagisa, what about you?
So I went with 2 here because I wasn't really sure, but I picked Death Cards because I think they're a new team that's going to be potentially making waves that people might not expect. But I think also that NYAA, may also be making a slow but powerful comeback this season, since I don't think they were in Trank last year. I think they skipped last season.
I'm pretty sure they did as well. I might be correct on that in the chat, but definitely NYAA making a comeback this season. Having some noteworthy pieces, YB from Firefight, for example. Be interesting to see how well they do. And I see some people in the chat saying like Guangzhou Gangsters win, DNA win, LCS lose. I agree with all of those, especially the LCS, especially the LCS lose one. Moving on now to our new team to watch. Thor, we'll start with you.
So I put the Death Cards here because technically I think they're the only new team that is contending for a top spot here. But they've got Delphi leading the way with his good looks. And then you got Heribidus, DNA, Orsted from the old school God Hand team. Really, really strong looking roster. Expect them to contend for a top spot.
I have to agree with Delphi having those good looks. He makes me look ugly. He makes me look ugly.
He's a beautiful man. He's a beautiful man.
He's a beautiful man, and I had the unfortunate disadvantage of casting with him so that everyone could see how beautiful he looked compared to me. Moving on to Nagisa, your new team you're going to be watching.
Okay, so I didn't want to say Death Card the third time. So I went with Krabby Crabbers. New team, lots of newer people in Trank as far as I know. So I think it's going to be fun to watch them evolve in Trank, see how they do. So
Yeah, definitely be interesting to see how well the Krabby Crabbers do. Moving on to your early MVP favorite, Thor. As you pour that bottle of wine, who's your favorite?
I went with the easy pick here, and it's I believe they were voted for MVP last season.
Yes.
If that's correct. Yeah. So I went with Cam. Just a lot of respect for this player. He's the biggest playmaker on any team that they join. It's really hard to pick against them, especially at the beginning of the season when we haven't really seen a lot of Transcendence here, with only 4 teams signing up for the preseason tourney. Come on, Transcendence here.
Unfortunate indeed. Nagi, what about you?
I went with Akua from Amnesia. I think a very solid player, and they've moved up a lot in Trank over the seasons. So I think that they are deserving of an early MVP choice.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how well Akua does with Amnesia. The hardest question by far, favorite logo. Thor, we'll start with you.
Krabby Crabbers makes me think of Mr. Krabs, SpongeBob SquarePants. It gave me all the feels.
Makes you think about money. I had to do it. I had to. Nagi,
good.
what about yours?
I went with Palm Beach Poggers. I love the headphones Pepe and the palm tree. Always been a big fan. I love it.
You've always been very poggers whenever you've seen that logo.
Yes.
Or that logo is very poggers.
I'm pogging under my mask, but you can't see it.
And that's why we wear masks. But yeah, Palm Beach Poggers definitely a good logo. It's been a very good logo ever since I saw it back in season 7. So it'll be interesting to see how well they do. And finally, to wrap up this section of Lightning Round, your favorite team to watch, starting with Thor.
I picked Nya here. I know that they've got some stuff shaken up with the support line right now, but anytime that I see not your average academy team play, I always like to see how well they're doing. We've got a lot of history between their organization and Ragnarok, so I'm always rooting for them.
Nagi, finish it out.
See, I was going to say Amnesia, but I think I'm going to save that for Overwatch 2 when it's not boring meta double shield and ball or whatever. So I picked Arctic Foxes. I think they're a very fun and interesting team to watch. So
Arctic Foxes returning for the first time, I believe, since season 5 or 6. So it'll be interesting.
It's been a while.
It has been a while indeed since we've seen the Arctic Foxes. We'll see if they're able to make a chill throughout the entirety of the tier. But that is going to do it for our preseason pontifications. Before we end up going to the final sections, we have one last preseason video. It is our Discord tier preseason video. This one was edited by Iconic. Thank you, Iconic.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and family beyond the binary, good evening and welcome to the Overwatch Tranquility Discord tier preseason finals. We have MI7 going up against Reminiscence. This org certainly has put a target on their own backs, having won, the other 2 finals already.
Like MI7 may sound new, but they do have 4 players from previous teams.
Yeah, we are going to be headed to Busan, so... Oh, that's absolutely what's coming in, and it is beautiful! A 3K comes in from Assassin Bull. Nobody touches, though, so MI7 gonna be able to take the map. The push coming in is a very aggressive one coming out from MI7. They're gonna be rewarded with the fight win as well. Ooh, and a Torp hammer kill, no less.
Oh!
That's gonna do it. Reminiscence has tied us at 1 apiece in these finals.
We're going to our hybrid map, and MI7, because they had lots of previous maps yet to pick, and I think they opted for Blizzard World this time around.
if they want to continue fighting it. A beautiful dragon strike from Reborn. Reminiscence takes the lead at 2-1.
You know, it's not coffee from Route 66, thank goodness, because that is where we are headed.
Blood Hungry finds another pick as well, and Reminiscence just continues to push this card forward. Really does. That's going to be Reminiscence taking a third map. They need to find that again, and it looks like they think the answer is going to be an Oasis. Will complete the trifecta for nostalgia. They have completed the anime villain arc, and they are your Discord tier preseason Overwatch Tranquility champions.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you again, Iconic, for that amazing montage video of the Discord tier preseason finals. Now we head into a special section where we have our matches to watch this week. Nagisa, we'll start with you. What match are you looking forward to this week?
I am looking forward to Galactic Penguins versus Fighting Potatoes. I am predicting a 3-1 in favor of Galactic Penguins, but I'm really curious to see how Fighting Potatoes does this season because they've always been kind of up and down, but, you know, I'm interested to see where they stand. It should be a fun match to watch.
Definitely will be an interesting match to watch this week. Thor, what about your match you're watching this week?
So this is the only opportunity I had throughout the entire podcast to throw some shade at Nagi's team. But
Why?
honestly, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a good match. I went with Cosmic Castaways versus Galactic Gibbons in the Discord tier, and these are two teams. I'm really kind of interested to see where they fall in the pecking order of Discord tier because Cosmic Castaways, with the name recognition coming into the season as last year's tier champions, Discord tier champions, they're kind of a shell of their former selves. Not trying to throw shade, but they lost a lot of pieces, and they're rebuilding the roster almost entirely. And that was kind of shown in the preseason tournament. So really, really interested to see if Cosmic Castaways is able to bounce back, but I think they will against the Galactic Gibbons, another strong contender in Discord tier. I went 3-1 Cosmic Castaways.
Cosmic Castaway is definitely an interesting case this season. Only one returning player, and everybody else is from different teams, save for two people who came from their other team, Big Bang Buccaneers. So it's definitely going to be an interesting seeing how Cosmic Castaways do. Now, the funny thing is that we did not script this, but these two have already picked the two of the three feature matches happening this week. I picked the third. I picked Guangzhou Gangsters versus Death Cards, the Transcendence tier feature match this week. It's going to be interesting to see how well the reigning champions will do against basically Decapitators. This is pretty much Epizooks versus Decapitators all over again. I said 3-1 for Guangzhou Gangsters. It's going to be interesting to see how well they do. Now, if our predictions aren't spicy enough for you, and if you want some more predictions, make sure to stay tuned after this broadcast. Predicting Tranquility is backed as Nerfed is your new host. Abraxas and I believe Phoenix are going to be with Nerfed to predict every single match happening in Tranquility this week. You do not want to miss that right after the Iris podcast. Couple other things to make note of here. The Beat Drop is going to be returning soon. We're going to be providing more details on that later, and we're also going to be posting some new long-form content on our YouTube, as well as debuting new YouTube Shorts and TikToks. So if you're into that sort of thing, you can check out our YouTube channel and our TikTok, which will probably be linked somewhere down the description or somewhere on our server. We also have a lot of our feature matches this week. On Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is 9 p.m. Central European Time, our first EU feature match of the season, where the Hope Guardians are going to be taking on Celsius 522. Later that night at 9 p.m. Eastern, our first North American match of the season, Fighting Potatoes again taking on the Galactic Penguins. On Wednesday, it's our Transcendence Tier day with our feature match again, Guangzhou Gangsters versus Death Cards. On Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central European Time is our Discord Tier EU debut feature match where Cam face off against Nagisa's favorite team, Mythical Kitsune. And to finish out the week here on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern is our Discord Tier North America feature match where Cosmic Castaways face off against Galactic Gibbons. So it's going to be an interesting week of matches, and we'll have to see how well all of them do. A few more announcements before we wrap up here. Our Tranquility store has been updated. Shop.spreadshirt.com/OW Tranquility to get all of your Tranquility merchandise, from shirts to hats to mugs to phone cases. Everything you can imagine is on sale. And this Wednesday, we're having our kickoff sale where you can get 15% off your entire order. So if you want to grab stuff, this week is the time to do it. Our Twitch team is also looking for casters, producers, observers, anybody who would like to help with our broadcast, especially those who can help in the EU hours. If you want to get involved with the community, there is a form in the important links channel in our Discord channel. You can also DM Boof or Laggy-san on Discord as well. And of course, to end off the broadcast here, we have our drawing. Every week we do a drawing for one free t-shirt from the Tranquility Gaming Store. And our inaugural winner for Season 9 is Hayden Nader 12. Mr. Hayden, manager of Adelaide and Koala Kings and of BPL fame, wins the first t-shirt here for Tranquility Gaming Season 9. Congratulations, Hayden. Any last words from you two before we close out the show?
Just GG's, everybody. Treat each other with respect. I'm looking for some good games.
It's going to be one heck of a season, I just know it. And also, Kiddo says he can't wait for Adelaide Eclipse to win. Good news, their manager and one of their players has already won this season. So, Adelaide Eclipse, you don't need to wait any longer. But that is going to do it for us. Thank you, everybody, for gazing into the iris with us. For Thor and Nagisa, my name is Bowsy. Until we meet again, we hope you have an amazing week.
See ya.
Experience tranquility. Pass into the iris.